You are listening to the Digital Parent Podcast with your host, Ced Lewis.
Hey parents, on this episode of the Digital Parent Podcast, we were joined by cybersafety expert Reginald Corbitt. Reginald is the founder of SafeCyber, whose mission is to educate cyber awareness in schools, community organizations, and caregivers. Reginald provides safety workshops across the U.S. He's one of the top speakers when it comes to cyber safety. Reginald and I discussed digital parenting tips on this show, and we really looked at how issues of human trafficking, sexting, cyberbullying, and pornography uniquely impact Black teenagers. We really give some strategies to parents on how to deal with these important issues. So sit back and listen to the show. Before we do, a quick word from our sponsor, mSpy. Parents, mSpy is the ultimate monitoring tool for all devices. mSpy remotely tracks GPS locations, calls, text, messages, WhatsApp, Snapchat, web browsers, pictures, and much more. With mSpy, you can also restrict unwanted calls, block websites, or even block apps. Go to mspy.com for more information. Hey, Reginald, we want to welcome you to the Digital Parent Podcast. We're so happy to have you on the show. You're doing such excellent work in the schools across the United States. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Now, Reginald, tell us about Safe Cyber Education. You know, what is your program about? And, you know, how did you get started in the internet safety field?
Well, I'll tell you, I have a personal story. I created Safe Cyber because of my daughter, who was 13 at the time. I discovered her having conversations with people online that she didn't know and I didn't know. My background is in physical security investigations for about 20 years. That's what I did. And so to be the father who was considered, I guess, the safety Sam, where I would give her information about being safe in the physical world, you know, make sure when you go to the mall that, you know, the mall is the only place you go, and, you know, make sure your surroundings and when you're with your friends, make sure that, you know, you don't get caught up in things that, you know, that are inappropriate or that, you know, wouldn't make the family name look good. Right. So I would give her this information about the physical world, but discovering that, you know, there was really literally another world out there, the digital world, the cyber world. It greatly concerned me because I felt like I didn't give her enough information, or at the time I didn't even have the information to help her keep safe while being online. And so out of that, I decided that, you know, I would resign from what I was doing, do tons of research, educate myself. And I started Safe Cyber, and, you know, I really started it in mind to educate her and other young people. But, you know, I also knew that there were other parents that needed to be educated as well. And as a matter of fact, there were whole communities of people from all backgrounds of life who have one thing in common, and that's being connected online. They, too, needed to be educated. So the goal of Safe Cyber is to educate communities and create this culture of safe connectivity, because everyone plays a part in it. Everyone has a role. The youth, the parents, the teachers, businesses, we all have a part in helping to keep the internet safe and secure.
So when your daughter was on, like, you know, online on different sites, what was it that, you know, brought that fear out of you as a parent, that you were like, look, you know, I got to stop doing what I'm doing now and really devote some time to this? Well,
to actually see the conversations that she was having online. They were very adult-like, you know, shall we say, and she was not necessarily saying adult-like things, but she was entertaining adult-like conversation at times. And so that greatly concerned me, you know, again, as a father of a teenage girl, where, you know, hearing about the internet and all that, the threats and the dangers that are out there online for teenage girls when it comes to the human trafficking, the prostitution. So it greatly concerned me seeing her having those conversations. And again, hearing that maybe possibly the person on the other end is not the person that maybe is in the picture, which in itself was maybe a young girl or a young guy. But at the same time, she did not know them. So it could have been anybody. So that's what really made me kind of open my eyes and say, hey, you know, this is of great concern to me and I need to do something about it.
Reginald, talk about how dangerous this human trafficking situation is, because if you type in Google black teenage girl, probably the first 3 pages is going to be pornography. So, Google's only going to show you what people are searching for. So we know there's a huge demand for black teenage girls. How big of an issue is that, and should parents really be on top of that issue as far as their teenage girls on being online on social media?
They really, really should. Social media is really the new medium of how prostitution, how girls are contacted and even recruited for prostitution. There are so many platforms, from things like Snapchat and Kik and even Facebook and Instagram, to where young girls are being contacted by adult males or even females. And then they're groomed, and then eventually they end up getting either talked out of their homes, or people talk themselves into their homes. But they're also are shown, things online to where you see a lot of, especially on Instagram, where you see a lot of women who have money that they're kind of showing out there to the world. And, a lot of these young ladies are even blatantly selling pictures of themselves online, or even, saying that they're doing so, and that, they can connect on a different, in a different chat room or something of that nature. They're blatantly saying that this is how I get my money. And so these young girls are seeing this, and some of them are even attracted to this type of lifestyle, basically because, for one, a lot of kids are really pressured to live a certain type of lifestyle, to have certain types of things. So parents should really be concerned about what their children are seeing and who their children are talking to online, again, because it's the new medium for prostitutions and human trafficking as well.
So these are not necessarily, I guess some of these girls are being, victims of, being, sexual traffic teen. These may be some girls who are independent. So these are girls who are putting their pictures out in order to gain money or to gain luxurious items based upon what they're seeing on Instagram. That is correct.
And, again, it's blatant, and that's how they say that they get their money. They're not ashamed about it. And so when another young girl see, you see tags, or you see things like, boss life, or hashtag boss life, this is how I'm living. And, they got the pictures of the money or the Gucci bags, or, all of the name brand stuff. And, then in another post, they're saying, connect with me through a certain site, to see me naked. So, a lot of girls will put 2 and 2 together and say, oh, okay, this is how I can live this lifestyle. So, let me check into this and see how this is done. To be quite honest, there's reports of a lot of college young ladies who are doing this as well, just to pay their college tuition. So, it's very, very prevalent in the social media community.
So that's interesting, Reginald, because I don't think a lot of people have discussed how Instagram is used as a tool for trafficking, because, Instagram is all about pictures, and you have people who are putting these pictures out to entice these kids, to lure them into the trap.
Yeah, that is correct. And now, within Instagram being able to use video as well, you're now able to see live video of this, whether it's, people who are engaged in certain activities. Sometimes, Instagram catches it, sometimes they don't. But, it's very prevalent, and Instagram is one of the biggest ways that they see this stuff happening.
Now, how prevalent is sexting, among these teens on Instagram and on Kik and Snapchat?
It's huge, it's so huge that, some schools have reported, hundreds and hundreds of kids being caught up in one sexting, I guess you can say, epidemic, because right. It's so huge, because scores of kids are caught up in exchanging these pictures within the school community with each other. And it's a very huge deal. And those that are not, in the school system, they're sending pictures as well, whether it's because there was requested, whether it's to gain attention, to gain validation. But it's a really, really big deal. And a lot of them don't think about the consequences. Of course, they think that things can be deleted. And sometimes things are deleted, but also things can be tracked if need be. But there's no such thing really, I think, as deletion, because it's out there somewhere, and it can be retrieved.
So, Reginald, how do you guide parents when that mom or that dad comes to you after one of your Safe Cyber presentations and says, you know what, I found this on my daughter's phone, or I just found out last night that she's sexting? How should that conversation look with that parent? Because now it's already out there. It's a little bit too late. How do they do damage control at that point?
Yeah, I tell parents, there's two types of talks. There's the sex talk, and then there's the tech talk. And sometimes those two are related, in some cases. But there are two different talks. The tech talk, you want to talk to your children about, the dangers that exist in engaging in activity like that. You want to talk to them about the consequences of things like that. And then you want to get down to the bottom of, okay, why are you sending these pictures? Sometimes parents have to do a self-evaluation of their own parenting to see what the issue is, why their children are seeking attention outside of home by sending these types of pictures. What's the reason? You really should not, I encourage parents to not really take a stance of just being angry and just snatching phones away, because sometimes that could lead to a child ended up, running away.
Right.
Especially if that child is engaged with someone that is, like we talked about, that has groomed them. A person who has already talked them or convinced them that, hey, you can come be with me and you'll be able to do whatever it is that you want. And of course, we know that's not true, because that end up leading to human trafficking and prostitution and things of that nature. But because they've been groomed for so long, any type of incident where, the parent seems like, they're the oppressor on the child may think that running away is the key and is the answer. So I don't, encourage parents to really approach your child in a mean way, but approach them in an understanding way and say, hey, I noticed that this is what you're doing. Let's talk about this and get to the bottom of this. Let's see why you're doing this. And sometimes, taking a phone away is a good enough punishment. It may be something that, it may be a first time offense, maybe the first time the child has actually explored something like that. But, the internet is a wealth of knowledge for a lot of things, but it also can be a place where especially teens turn to answers that they may not be getting from parents, or they may not feel like they can ask their parents. So they'll go online and do their own research, or a friend of theirs may give them some information about where they can go and find out these types of things. But a part of digital parenting is just basic parenting, engaging in conversation with your child, paying attention to your child, listening to your child, and being involved in their life.
So let me ask you a quick question around sexting. So once they found these pictures, do you suggest that they contact the school, or should they contact a family attorney or somebody first before they turn over the pictures? Because I guess my concern, would there be a risk that, if my son wasn't involved, but he got the picture from somebody else, and he's coming home showing me, hey, Dad, what do I do with this? Because I just got this picture from my friend. Should he go back to the school and tell? Should he delete it? Should they contact law enforcement? What? Just trying to figure out some of the steps where a kid may not get in trouble for something they really didn't do.
Right, absolutely. And I think, definitely contacting a family attorney, if they have one, on standby, would be very key and very first step. And then second, I think if it's something where they receive these pictures from a student, contacting the school, because they may not be the only one that received these pictures. I think notifying the school ahead of time, before the school gets wind of, that this is a pretty big deal amongst the student body, I think that would be key as well. And then, the school can contact the law enforcement and make them aware of the situation.
And when it comes to the consequences of sexting, and one of the things we're seeing is that, sexting is prevalent among all teens, all races, all socioeconomic demographic, but it does seem to be for black boys in particular. They are really suffering the legal consequences when they are caught sexting. It's like they are immediately charged, prosecuted by the DA's office in the county, immediately suspended, where maybe other boys from other races don't get that same consequence. Are you starting to see some of those patterns where you're in different areas, in different neighborhoods, different school systems?
Right, I am, and it's prevalent in the news as well when you see a lot of the stories where there has been a young black male that has received some type of prosecution, or received some type of from the school, received some type of suspension, whereas you're right, the counterparts have not, and I really, I can provide my opinion on that. I feel like it's sort of like the whole, and I guess in a in a matter of words, it's sort of like the whole shoot to kill first, type of situation that's going on with the black male.
Right.
It's really, prosecute first, and and then maybe ask questions afterwards, or don't ask questions at all. So I think it's really sad that is the case, and that it's prevalent. And then when you see cases where a Caucasian male has raped someone and they don't receive anything but probation, you know what I mean? And also to see a black male that's in a situation where he may have received pictures and not haven't even sent pictures. So yeah, I do hear about that a lot, and I have seen some cases of like that where I've visited.
Do you think that parents understand that? Do you think the parents understand like the unique situation with their sons receiving this information? It's not just like things that kids are doing at school, that there could be some career altering consequences from this situation. Like, do they understand, or is it something that comes after the fact when it actually happens?
Yeah, I see that it's happening after the fact when it comes to the parents, realizing that, this is a serious situation. And again, it goes back to having that tech talk. Right. And that has to do with the consequences of using this technology and what happens if you use it inappropriately. And you have a lot of parents who are really giving these phones and these tablets and these laptops as gifts, and they're saying, here you go, have fun, figure it out. And that's happening. But also what's happening is that this technology is being used inappropriately, and that's where the awareness comes in for both child and parent. Parents need to know that the digital parenting piece is important, that it's key, and that it needs to be done on a regular basis. That includes things like monitoring, constant monitoring, software that'll help monitor, because, not only is sexting being done, but also the cyberbullying piece, whether your child is the cyberbully or they are being cyberbullied. You want to know that, because some of those consequences are ended up being very traumatic, and some even leading to death when it comes to the cyberbullying. So, you should want to know if that is happening in your child's life.
And when it comes to cyberbullying, especially with black boys, how many kids are you seeing, young black males, they're going to social media, Instagram, Facebook in particular, to prove their masculinity, either by, making verbal threats, flashing weapons, whatever, to kind of show this toughness to other kids in order to, to prove themselves as being, tough?
Yeah, in my research, there's a large percentage of it when it comes to the young black male that is doing this type of activity. The internet is the one place where, they feel like they can get away with things and do it freely without any consequences.
Right.
Their role models are on the internet, doing the same thing, because they are looking up to people on the internet, whether it's the neighborhood drug dealer, the reality TV star, or, the entertainer. They're looking at these people in envy, They see them getting all types of likes and attention, and so, they get this because, they're seeking validation and approval that they otherwise may not get at home, that they otherwise may not get in their neighborhood or at school. Social media offers that feeling of acceptance. At times, the attention they get is very potent and it feeds them. You can be whoever you want to be online. That goes for whether it's a sexual predator posing as a child that's grooming other children, or it's a broke person that's posing as someone with a lot of money. You can be whoever you want to be on social media. And so, it really feeds, I think, part of the psyche of some people. And depending on where they're at in life and what they're going through, again, it offers a place of validation and approval.
You know what? You really touched on something really important there about that whole validation, approval, and mimicking celebrities online. I mean, if you look at, we take the hip hop community, stay there. We know there's a lot of rappers online. There are flashing gang colors. They're nowhere affiliated with a gang, but they're using that persona, that perception of gang culture in order to sell more records, to push it to a different culture to sell more record sales. And we have kids that are emulating that at home. They may be, flashing different colors online to show they may be affiliated with a certain gang. But there's also consequences for that when they have to leave the house, go into the community, and go into the school. Then they have to account for the fact that they were false claiming on Instagram or on Twitter somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And, and the thing is that, people have the mindset that what's on social media is truth,
Right.
And like I said, and people will portray it to be truth, and they will portray it very, very well. It's very believable. But you have to be able to be open-minded to see and kind of, I guess, have some inside track on certain things when it comes to social media to really know that some of the stuff isn't true. But it's the first impression for a lot of people, and a lot of people believe the first impression of social media. But again, like you said, especially when it comes to those who are affiliated with gangs and gang violence. They use it as a marketing to sell themselves and to sell their lifestyle, but really aren't really living it.
And I guess to give an example, Reginald, I know that you were somewhere, I can't remember the state, that you just did a presentation where I think a principal brought you in because there were some words being said on social media, and either there was getting ready to be a fight at school the next day or a fight took place. Can I explain to parents how this is very common where kids say words on social media and then the next day they're actually confronted offline?
Correct. Yeah, this was actually, this was a school in Michigan that I recently visited. And there was actually a comment that was made in reference to the race of another student. And also there were some political comments that were made that was involved. And, it had an impact on a couple of students that were involved because, they thought that the student was actually considered to be a close friend of theirs. But at the same time, the person that made the comment was actually afraid to come to school because of threats that were made, not particularly from those within the circle, but, from other students. So, it was actually, perfect timing. I was actually going there for another reason, but it was just perfect timing that, that incident occurred, and I was able to kind of speak to that incident to offer some insight on social media and how, a person is allowed to say whatever it is that they want to say, but also be aware that you could be judged by that. And also, know that as you get older and as social media becomes more, even more prevalent when it comes to your job and business and things of that nature, that, it can really cause some waves, I guess.
Right.
And your employer has the right to dismiss you because of your comments. Social media plays a really, really big role. Half the employers actually use social media to vet candidates for jobs now. Colleges are looking at social media to when they're reviewing applicants. Again, social media is the first impression, and I really feel like if awareness was raised about and youth were educated, especially in middle school and high school, that they would really, really think twice about what they say and what they post when it comes to that.
Now, when you talk to these parents, Reginald, are there some tips to give them if, like, as a father, I'm seeing this chatter on social media, like I'm seeing these, fights on Facebook and Twitter, and there's a threat about what's going to happen the next day at school? Are there some things the parents can do to kind of like prevent that from taking place?
Yeah, I would say, they should definitely monitor their child's online activity. Parents are sometimes so afraid to do that. I don't want to be so involved in my child's online life. I want to make sure they have some level of privacy, and that's, all fine and good. But at the same time, know that, for the most part, I think most parents are paying for these devices. So therefore, you own that device. So there really isn't anything such as privacy when it comes to that. You want to give them the privacy to an extent that where they offer you, where you can trust them with it, and give them opportunity to gain that trust and maybe to gain a little bit of privacy, because, we know that kids are still maturing, kids are still learning. So there are things that may be said, and there will be some things that they may be interested in, again, that they may not talk to parents about, that they may just engage in other, conversation with other youth. But I really feel like parents should definitely make sure that they monitor their child's online activity in their online life, because they could be living two totally different lives when it comes to offline and online. Another tip I would give them is, you might want to set up some type of software that will allow a level of privacy, but will alert you to certain type of keywords when it comes to cyberbullying, when it comes to sexting. There is software out there like that, that will just, give you some of the keywords that probably, you should be concerned about, that will raise a red flag and say, let me check in on my child's online life and let me engage in conversation with them to really see what's going on with their life.
Now, we talked a lot about online filtering and looking at certain things, with social media. But I think we need to really talk to parents about like gaming systems like Nintendo, PS4, Xbox, that, a lot of these gaming systems have it set up where you can, communicate with other people online through the game. And there's been a lot of research about how the porn industry is targeting young kids through the gaming system. Have you ran into this a lot, Reginald, where, parents have asked you about how to, to filter the game system or how to control the conversations that are taking place on different gaming systems?
That is correct. Yes, that is a really, really big question for a lot of parents as they find out and become aware that their child is actually playing a game with somebody on the other side of the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, 84% of teen boys and 59% of teen girls have stated that they regularly play online games, and over 52% of them play with people that they do not know personally, but they consider them to be an online friend.
Right.
The frightening reality is that some of those online friends can actually be sexual predators that are targeting youth online gamers. The sexual predators, they follow the children into the gaming world or in the gaming world. A variety of these online games use child-friendly graphics. They're free of charge. And, so parents, they may not, they may look at the games and consider them harmless or, are really unaware of the inherent risk of open door communication, to sexual predators playing the same games. Parents may also find a false sense of security in games that specify minor age recommendation, like, you must be at least 13 years of age to play. So in the real world of sexual predators and online gaming offenders, they engage in cyber grooming and they work to gain a child's confidence while playing. So online games, they provide a platform for sexual predators to easily connect with and earn the trust of children with whom they're playing with. And, as the child engages in online play with the predator, additional communication takes place. They become friends, often in private chat rooms and messengers. And so in the eyes of the child, it's like, online friendship has formed. I have a friend here. And so once that predator earns the child's trust, he'll often encourage the child to switch to a different platform or social media app, and there's plenty out there to enable the exchange of pictures and videos. And then, there's connect to a live webcam function. And, the predator may begin to offer virtual goods or even physical goods or money in exchange for sending naked pictures and engaging in sexual acts. And in some cases, the communication can take a really dark turn, where the predator would make threats against the child's family if he or she doesn't comply.
Wow.
And so then also the predator gets the child to engage in a sexual act, and they can virtually blackmail the child or what we call sextortion. And so, the predators have no geographical borders when it comes to the internet. The internet allows offenders in the U.S. to abuse children in another place like England, or perpetrators in Australia to abuse Canadian children. Only language barriers on both sides are visible. So,
so do you recommend that, maybe parents play the video games that their kids are playing so they can kind of get familiar with the games and how they operate and how the communication takes place?
Yeah, I do. I recommend that, so parents can see and hear, conversation that the children may be engaging with, especially with someone who they say, is an online friend. And somebody they've been playing with for quite some time. We got to think about it like this. It's a circumstance responsible parents will never allow in a physical reality. Imagine a playground where your 10-year-old son or daughter is playing and a 35-year-old man walks up and begins playing with your child. Most bystanders, and especially as a parent, you would be vigilant and immediately step in and say something, right? And so, in online games, parents or other keen bystanders are not around to intervene. So in online gaming, the 35-year-old man has, unfettered access to your child, if you allow that. So I think parents should really engage in playing those games with them, really learn the virtual world, really learn the online gaming world and what some of the avenues to where and the access that's being they're actually being allowed to have to their child.
Those are some great tips. One of the last questions I want to ask you, Reginald, about this tech talk that we talked about earlier, and I think it mirrors having just like any type of talk, like the sex talk, like you said, and you compare it to the text talk. For those families where the male is not present in the home, do you think it's important, like say for instance, for a single mom to have maybe her uncle, her brother, another male in her life to have that tech talk with her son in particular, if it has something to do with sexting? Do you think that would resonate that more, or do you think that even matters at all?
Yeah, I really think that I think that it plays a slight role in it because, I know as a male myself and having that sex talk early on in life, it was given to me by an uncle. So I feel like it really did make a difference. So I think to a certain extent that does make a difference. But, I would even go so far as to say I think the better advice would be is for that parent to actually get someone who was skilled in talking to youth and talking to youth about, things like cyberbullying, sexting, digital footprint and reputation, for that parent to do research to that they can pass on to that child, or even set up a consultation with that cyber safety expert, who is able to, again, have that particular type of tech talk with them. Because you can tell a youth, hey, don't be online doing this and doing that. But if you don't tell them about the circumstances or the consequences of what can happen if they are online and doing things inappropriately, what can happen, I feel like it will kind of go in one ear and out the other, especially when it comes to today's youth.
You know what, Rachel, that's a great point. I think it's why, your company, Safe Cyber, is so important. Like you say, you need to have the experts sometimes, because one of the things you see, especially when you're out in the community, is you see a lot of parents say, you can't have that app, or you can never use that app again, or you're never going to talk to girls again on social media. We know these kids, they're just not realistic. They're going to use apps. They're going to talk to people of the opposite sex. So, do you have that skill set as a parent to have that next level conversation about what apps are you using? How are you communicating with people online? If you don't, who do you have within your, what we call, tribe to reach out to kind of help you with that conversation, or for that person to have the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And, part of that is that, parents can say those things and say, hey, I'm going to remove every app off of your phone. But we know that there are other apps out there that can be used to, there are hidden apps that parents, aren't aware of. And, for instance, there's a calculator app that functions just like a calculator, but you punch in certain numbers and it turns over and it turns into a hidden messaging app. So, it's not about, you have that saying, it's not about if it will happen, but when it will happen. And I feel like that's such a case when it comes to kids and technology. And again, they may end up doing something inappropriately. I feel like you need to arm them and equip them with the knowledge and the awareness that, okay, you can engage in this type of activity and you just may do that, but understand that these are the consequences. This is what will happen. You can be sneaky. You can, figure out ways around it. And as we know, teens will do that. But these are the consequences of you engaging in this type of conversation, this type of activity with this electronic device.
That's right. Well, Reginald, you really gave a lot of excellent information and tips to parents. Where can parents find you on social media if they want to reach out and get more information? Where can schools find you if they want to, hire you to come out and present to their parents or to their students?
They can find me at SafeCyber&nbsp.com. That's SafeCyber&nbsp.com.
What about any social media handles?
All my social media handles are going to be the same. SafeCyber&nbsp.
Well, great, Reginald. We really appreciate you being on the show, and best of luck.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity once again.
Hey, parents, I hope you really enjoyed that episode with Reginald. If you need more information from Reginald, please go to his website, SafeCyber&nbsp, and contact him if you need him to come out to your school, to your community organization, or if you just need him to kind of consult you on how to have that hard talk. Reginald is an excellent person for that. You also find him on his social media handles by the same address, which is SafeCyber&nbsp. One of the big nuggets, one of the big takeaways of this show is when Reginald talked about the need for you to monitor your kids, having some type of software to filter things that are being said online. Here at Digital Parent, we strongly promote mSpy. You can go online right now to digitalparentpodcast.com, go to the homepage, download your free 7-day trial, and kind of find out what's going on online with your kid. It's the easiest, quickest, cheapest way to do that without having to pay anything. And as always, please go to iTunes, rate, and subscribe to the Digital Parent Podcast, and let us know what you thought about this episode with Reginald. Until the next time.